Good evening. My name is Alec Wright, and I am the Chief Innovation Officer of GSV Labs, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Entrepreneurship World Cup Round 2 Semifinals East Coast Edition. As I mentioned, I'm part of the GSV Labs team, the national organizers for the US and Canadian national competition of the Entrepreneurship World Cup, and we're really excited to get into our second semifinal event this evening. Just to let everyone know why we're here and what we're doing. This is the East Coast edition of the semifinals of the Entrepreneurship World Cup. We're running 3 different semifinals events at the early and growth stage level as part of the US national competition. And that national finals event will occur on September 9th to ultimately identify the top early stage companies advancing from the US competition over to the global competition. Tonight you're going to hear from 9 top early stage US East Coast teams, and we'll identify those 3 that are going to move on to the national finals to compete against both the South by Southwest and Southern event from last week, as well as the West Coast semifinals that's happening a little bit later. Just set the context, this is the national competition of the Entrepreneurship World Cup, which is a global startup competition that includes over 150,000 participating startups from over 100 different countries around the world, dozens of verticals, all competing for $1 million in cash prizes, as well as tens of millions of dollars in-kind contribution support and access to a global ecosystem of partners, investors, everything that a startup needs to grow. And none of this would be possible without the support of the MISC Foundation, the Global Entrepreneurship Network, and the Global Education and Leadership Foundation, the 3 organizations that are global, co-hosting and organizing this event. We have the great pleasure of running the US competition in partnership with them. We are GSV Labs. We're an early stage startup platform that supports hundreds of companies in our physical innovation centers in Silicon Valley, in Boston, and very shortly in Pittsburgh, as well as we have GSV Passport, which is our virtual innovation center that provides 25,000 plus entrepreneurs from across the globe access to capital, mentors, learning curriculum and content, and nearly $1 million in discounted or free technology services and tools. An amazing place for early stage founders to kind of get the support they need. Before we get into the competition, I'd love to share a little bit more about Passport. So that is the Passport platform. We hope you come check it out at gsvlabs.com. We'd love to welcome you to the GSV Labs community. And with that, we're ready to get into the East Coast semifinals of the U.S. national competition of the Entrepreneurship World Cup. Again, we want to give a special shout out to GSV Labs national event partners, Leighton and Brex. If it wasn't for your support, we wouldn't be able to run these incredible kind of series events like we do. And as always, another thank you to the global co-hosts, Misk, Jen, and Teagle for making this all possible. Before we get into it, let's take a quick look at the companies you're going to see tonight. You're going to see Eden Geotech, Rubitection, White Fox Scooters, Iron Yun, Wellness, Legacy, Mito Materials, Vincere Biosciences, and last but not least, MemoryWell. And they will all be presenting these 9 companies. They'll all have 3 minutes to present, 3 to 4 minutes for Q&A in front of a panel of a great group of judges. And to introduce who's going to be evaluating those companies, we've put together a real diversity of early stage specialists from different perspectives, including Juan Scarlett, who leads ventures at GSV Labs, Katie Heritage, the global manager of AWS EdStart, and Clement Cazalat, the managing director of Techstars Boston. We'd love to give each one of those individuals an opportunity to introduce themselves and share a little bit more about their background. So maybe Juan, do you mind kicking us off?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Alec. Again, my name is Juan Scarlett. I'm a venture capital investor based in San Francisco, California. I spent the last 13 years of my career working in venture capital, and the last 20 years working in technology investing and research, primarily on the West Coast. As Alec mentioned, I'm currently working with the GSV Labs team on a number of exciting venture capital initiatives that we hope to announce this fall. Prior to that, I worked with Nimble Ventures, where I led the investing efforts for their early stage fund, primarily focused on seed to early expansion stage, enterprise SaaS, cloud infrastructure, fintech, automation, robotics, and life sciences companies. Some of our investments included Oris Robotics, App11, Periscope Data, which is now Scisense, Figure, and Alto Pharmacy. While working with Nimble Ventures, I also worked with Passport Capital, where I led the venture capital investments for that firm as well. And some of the investments that we made at Passport include Zora, Hortonworks, New Relic, and Lithium Technologies. So I'm very excited to be judging again today, and looking forward to hearing some of the pitches.
And Juan, do you mind sharing your perspective on what's so exciting about the early stage startup ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always think the most exciting thing about the ecosystem in general is just really working with the founders and early employees themselves. I always get very interested and excited about just the variety of innovative ideas, creative solutions to problems, and incredible levels of energy, enthusiasm, and passion that the startup founders and early employees possess. I really just feel like there's not a whole lot like that in the business world, and I really appreciate the opportunity to support their efforts as an investor and as an advisor. It really keeps me excited myself and energized on a daily basis, even when I'm stuck at home for a month at a time working in a tiny home office.
Thank you so much, Juan. Really looking forward to getting your perspective on the startups tonight. Katie, do you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Katie Heritage, and I'm the global leader of AWS EdStart. AWS EdStart is Amazon Web Services virtual accelerator for EdTech startups. So my background was that I actually went to school to become a teacher, and then started exploring the classroom and realized I did not want to be in front of the classroom. I wanted to be on the technology side, realizing that I love students, but not necessarily on a day-to-day basis. And so working my way through government support, and then landing at Amazon Web Services and having the opportunity to develop a program that is supporting customers in 36 countries around the world and enabling them to really grow their businesses, to start from that early ideation stage and enable them as they're growing their business and leveraging technologies to do that. through the program, building relationships like we have with you guys and a lot of the people that Juan mentioned as well, and helping just amazing technologies to revolutionize the education space and impact learners' lives around the world. Your question, I know it's coming, is what is inspiring me about this and working with founders is that the speed of innovation is unmatched in anywhere else that it is in startups, is that startups have ideas, and in many environments around this world that they're able to just take those ideas, run with them, and go to market and really impact people's lives. And I think that that's so pivotal, especially in this day and age, is that they don't have, I would say, bureaucracy in many cases that would slow them down. So that's one of the reasons why I'm inspired by startups and love working with founders around the world.
Thank you so much, Katie. I can't imagine what the experience has been the past 6 months as the education and online learning market has just gone through, a transformation. It must be amazing, kind of the seat you've had at the table watching that all happen.
It's been pretty phenomenal. It's one of those things where I'm really glad I'm here at this day and age, because I'm going to look back in 20 or 50 years and go, I remember when the tables turned. So absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much. And Clem, we'd love to learn a little bit more about your background.
Sure. Thanks, Alec. I feel humbled to be alongside Juan and Katie here. So my name is Clement. I'm the managing director of Techstars in Boston. Techstars is a worldwide network that helps entrepreneurs succeed through investment and accelerators. And so we're like big fan of this cause. So happy to be able to represent this cause here. So boss as a managing director and also founders that went through Techstars 10 years ago, did the full journey as a CEO of AI cybersecurity company through like the full loop coming from Europe and selling the company after. And so Techstars brings a perspective of what's like the pre-series A world, helping as an accelerator from anywhere from like getting technology out of the lab to getting ready for the scale. And we've invested so far in 2,100 companies all over the world. We're everywhere but in the Silicon Valley. We're not anti-Silicon Valley, far from it, but we're pro everywhere else and working to create nodes in every key startup hub in the world to be a platform for companies to leverage what this given ecosystem is world-class at. And so coming today with a perspective of having been transitioned from entrepreneurship to venture now 4.5 years ago, both through the accelerator as well as investing through a fund and personally in companies. And really excited. And what makes me extremely enthusiastic about the generation of early stage companies right now is that the cards are being redealt in front of our eyes, and right now more than ever, it's a cliche to say best companies are created during a time of crisis. However, what is real in 2020 is to see actually customers of startups, customers of innovation, like seeing their business disrupted. Working in Boston a lot in the healthcare world, seeing actually hospitals looking for new solutions that the traditional incumbent are not able to bring, and seeing that through all the stacks of like what makes startup possible. At the end of the day, customers, users' behaviors changing and embracing a new pattern, and that is happening in front of our eyes. So yeah, bringing that and the perspective of having worked like everywhere from pre-series A to IPO with the likes of DigitalOcean, ClassPass, PillPack here in Boston, and many more. So excited, and thanks for putting the Entrepreneurship World Cup together. And also one thing I might bring during the call, our youngest participant on and off. So she's amazing, and she's gonna learn from everyone here as a future founder and venture capitalist.
Well, thank you, Clem. It's really exciting to meet the newest member of the Techstars team, and she's certainly welcome to drop into the pitch event tonight whenever appropriate. So thank you so much for spending some time with us, and it's great to hear your perspective, from the early stage acceleration space. I've been saying for a couple months now, there's never been a better time to start a company, and I think the work that folks like you and Katie and the entire acceleration ecosystem are doing are really making that possible. So again, with that, you've met our three judges for tonight. We're going to be hearing more and more from them over the next hour as they get a chance to question some of these startups. But I think we're ready to get in to our first pitch and get you to the part of the broadcast that everyone's particularly interested in, which is the amazing early stage companies kind of coming out of the East Coast region. So with that, I want to give the audience one last reminder, ask questions in the chat. We're going to do our best to squeeze some audience questions into the Q&A. It probably won't be for every startup, but if we see some really great questions, we'll make sure we get them in. And second, as an audience member, rate the startups on the event page. You're going to help us choose the audience winner, the most popular company amongst our audience, which is going to be a tie-breaking vote in the event that we get any ties amongst the judge scores. So we love to hear what you have to say about the presenting companies and encourage you to participate on the platform. With that, I think we are ready to go. As I said, we're going to have 9 presenting companies. Each one is going to get a 3-minute pitch, 3 to 4 minutes of Q&A in between each one. And we're going to really try and keep this moving. So don't be surprised if you see me drop in and move the conversation along. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first startup. We'll be welcoming Amar from Eden Geotech to the virtual stage.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Coming through loud and clear.
Okay, well, I will get to it. We don't have a lot of time. My name is Amar Lali. I'm a co-founder of Eden Geotech. We founded the company back in 2017, influenced by my background in the oil and gas and geothermal industry. We started innovation in that space. So what Eden Geotech does, develop affordable, sustainable, clean technology solutions for downhole applications. The biggest of which we're focusing on the past 2 years is a problem that made the United States an energy independence to a certain degree, which is hydraulic fracturing. Hydraulic fracturing really changed the landscape of energy, national security, and revenue for a lot of states, creating jobs along the way. But it's highly expensive, pollutive, consume a huge amount of water. But we cannot really imagine our lives without it. So to kind of put some numbers on those kind of negative consequences, it costs around $2 to $4 million per well to do that, which accumulate to 20 to 40% of the well total cost. It's environmentally hazardous. If you do not know anything about hydraulic fracturing, you know it's bad. And it's bad because it could contaminate subsurface resources, waste production, scientifically linked to induced seismicity, you name it. And every other candidate comes to the stage to try and ban fracking. And actually, we're trying to solve that issue. Other than that, it's very expensive, logistically nightmare to put together. And that picture on your right is what actual hydraulic fracturing looks like. So what is it that we're trying to do about it? We're introducing a new novel technology called the pulse electrical reservoir stimulation. And this technology kind of utilizes high voltage frequency and amplitude control from the surface through what is called as a power supply, linked to a generator, and kind of deployed between 2 wells where it relies in high voltage electricity, significantly higher that you've seen in your daily life, to break the rocks. And this is applicable for unconventional, conventional plays, and could be deployed on vertical, horizontal wells. It's huge value added, comes in cost reduction, slashing of water uses, also time reduction, and significant reduction in CO2 emissions. The product development started through an NSF. Since then, we were able to raise $2 million and sign our first contract for around $500,000 with Petroleum Development Oman. And the market size is significant. We think in a few years, we'll be able to kind of capture within one region up to 160 wells that could accumulate to $72 million. Also could make countries that never seen energy independency before, like Europe, that bans hydraulic fracturing, see that possible. The other thing that we're also working on is a different product, which is called the wireless power. And through that product, we're trying to bring to life with smart wells. As we transition to geothermal, we need to monitor all the predictions happening down well, and this is the technology we're trying to do, and I'm running out of time. So let me jump right to the team. It's myself and Paris Smalls. Both of us are MIT graduates, and we have an astonishing technical team behind us. Mehrdad, PhD in mechanical engineering. Sean Fong is an MIT researcher who just joined us with experience at Shell, and Clement with experience in Anadarko. And with that, I conclude. I hope I was able to kind of wrap it up in the time given.
Thank you so much, Amar. It's a great introduction to Eden Geotech. I'd love to throw it over to our judges in case there are any introductory questions. Maybe Juan, do you have anything to kick us off?
Sure. Thank you, Amar. I guess I'd love to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about that secondary product, because I wanted to make sure I understood how that fits into the broader sort of portfolio of products that you have for the company. So if you could please tell us a little bit more about that, thanks.
So the other product, it also works in the oil and gas or geothermal industry, and it allows powering of downhole sensors. So as soon as you produce, regardless of what it is, if you're producing steam or water for geothermal purposes or hydrocarbon, you're blind until that kind of stuff comes to the surface. And a lot of times they want to know the downhole situations, which they don't. We hear more and more about smart wells coming live, and that's approximately 5% of all the wells in the United States. They need a way to be powered. Current methods are very, very expensive. We're providing a clean, sustainable, renewable way where it really harvests the flow-to-flow movement and capture the mechanical energy, turn it to electrical energy, powering the sensors in the way. And that's a significant cost, ridiculously up to 90% cost reduction comparing to conventional methods.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from our judges?
Yeah, Amar, congratulations. This is amazing. Could you walk us through what will it take to get the first live deployment, and what are the gates? You mentioned 2021 first commercial application. What is happening between now and then to have the first live deployment?
So we're doing the live deployment as we speak. I'm actually in Oman now. That's why there is a big time difference. So it's actually at night. And we're deploying our first well in Oman, in 2 oil producing wells with Petroleum Development Oman, which is the national oil and gas company in Oman. When we say by 2020 commercialization, that means like we connected enough data points and we know we kind of deployed our technology in different well schematics. We're comfortable to go to any clients. We're in that phase, but we're actually putting our tools in wells as we speak.
Any questions from you, Katie?
Real quick, what is your globalization strategy?
We are starting from the Middle East just because the economics of oil and gas are significantly better. They're talking about $20 in barrel. In the United States, talking about $3 profits in a barrel. Then we want to expand as we become more flexible, driving the cost down. We want to expand back to the Middle East, to the United States. But we have 2 big hubs, the Middle East and the United States, and we have the geothermal space, which we're slowly crawling into. And we're in talk with big stakeholders that are kind of pushing the wheels toward 100% renewable energy, that they want to bring geothermal to their landscape, and we could help them materialize that. And that's also mainly in the Middle East and in California in the United States.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Amar. Maybe one final question. Where do you hope to be 4 years from now, 5 years from now? What's the vision?
I'm stopping the video so to preserve the bandwidth. I think the question is 5 years. In 5 years, I hope we kind of deployed it commercially in the geothermal space. We want to build the longer term vision of the company toward geothermal. Oil and gas is more lucrative. It has more profit margin, more stomach to try new things than geothermal. But eventually, we have to build a company in sustainable, since we are actually a sustainable solution company. So in 5 years, I hope I will be commercial only in geothermal.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amar, and really appreciated the opportunity to learn about Eden. With that, we'll move into our second presentation. It's my pleasure to welcome Sana from Rubitection to the virtual stage. Hi, Sana, you're still on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You're coming through loud and clear.
Can you see me?
It does not look, here, I just asked you to start your video.
Okay, perfect, yeah. Good. Okay, can you see me now?
Your screen's coming through, but it's black. It looks, oh, perfect. You're good to go.
All right, there we go, perfect. Sorry about that, some technical issues. So thank you guys all for your time today. My name is Sana Gaspard. I'm the CEO of Rubitection and the primary inventor of its technology. As CEO, I've spearheaded our fundraising to date, as well as our engagement with strategic corporate partners. Rubitection is a medical device company that's addressing a global healthcare problem known as bed sores by providing caregivers with a low-cost early detection tool. Our vision is to become a global leader in skin health monitoring to end the needless suffering and painful deaths that can be caused by a bed sore, which devastated the Tassel family. So in 2007, Byron Tassel was working on his roof and he fell and rushed to the hospital. While at the hospital, he developed a severe bed sore. It was so severe that he had a hole in his body. He would eventually die from complications, and his family were awarded $6.4 million in a wrongful death suit. Byron is just one of the 2.3 million Americans who are diagnosed every year, 60,000 of whom will die needlessly. This is because if you can detect a condition early, you can prevent it from developing. But early detection is actually really difficult. At the earliest stages, as just indicated by skin redness, in addition, the early diagnostic test is manual and unreliable, allowing this preventable healthcare condition to cost the US healthcare system $11 billion in 1 year alone, a cost that insurance is no longer covering if it develops within the facility. Given the growing population at risk, which is the elderly, the huge cost and growing legal liability, hospitals and nursing homes are actively looking for low-cost early detection tools. We meet that need with the Rubitection assessment system. It's an optical device that allows any user to detect a bed sore at its earliest stage. Our initial clinical testing with our functional prototype has shown that we can detect the early biomarkers with a 96% accuracy, allowing anyone, regardless of their skill level, to provide better patient care to save lives, save time, and save money. Compared to our competition, we're more reliable, we're easier to use, and we're more affordable. This will allow us to dominate a $4.1 billion US market, which will include sales of 2 products, our software app and the hardware system. We'll sell those into hospitals, nursing homes, and home health agencies. We'll access those markets using strategic sales and distribution partners who are excited about what we're doing because we meet a market void. Just this year, Procter & Gamble evaluated us out of 4 companies to be their next billion-dollar brand. The team behind Rubitection includes myself and a team of engineers who have domain expertise. We've surrounded ourselves with experts in the field like Dr. Elizabeth Aiello, the former president of the National Pressure Ulcer Advisory Panel. As a team, we're excited to get this product to market, but we're even more excited because that's just the beginning. With the broader application of our technology to other wounds like diabetic foot ulcers and the dermatology space like dermatitis or rosacea, we can increase our market to over $339 billion. But we're starting first with bed sores because no one should have to die from them. They're preventable. And with our technology, we'll empower anyone with the ability to detect them early to reduce costs and save lives. We invite you to join us on this journey as we look for clinical and corporate partners, financing, team members to grow, and advisors. Thank you.
Sana, thank you so much. Really, really, exciting and interesting business that you're going after, and really compelling early stage, progress. So excited to hear what our judges have to say about it. I'll throw it over to our judges for any questions. Maybe Katie, do you want to kick it off?
Presentation. I absolutely love your technology and think it will absolutely improve the quality of people's lives. What inspired you to start this business? What's been your journey?
I was inspired to start it for 2 main reasons. I learned about the condition while I was in grad school. And I was really motivated by the fact that it was a common healthcare condition, but people were just not talking about it because it wasn't something that was nice or something people wanted to talk about. It was a condition that was preventable, where technology can actually help with improvement. And then it was a condition that was a health disparity for people of color, independent of their race. Because the early diagnostic test that's used is a manual visual test that as soon as your skin starts to get some color, even a tan, it becomes harder for them to do that test. And I thought, you know, at a high level, this is just unacceptable. It puts me at risk. It puts my family at risk as we get older. And I just decided that I was going to make it my project. And I was also, for my PhD, it was my PhD project. I was looking for a project that wouldn't just be a thesis, but something that could actually impact healthcare. And this kind of brought everything together.
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem. You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Any question, Juan or Clem?
Awesome. Thanks, Shana, for going through that. So you briefly touched on it, on your incredible background and also the teams that you went briefly around. So there is for knowing a little bit of space, it's like you present it as a straightforward problem, but there is like the solution you're putting together is extremely complex in the back. Can you speak a little bit about the teams that you've put together and the medical expertise and research that you've surrounded yourself with?
Yes. So give me 1 second. I'll bring that up.
No need of slide, just help us understand, like you're surrounded by researchers, by
yes.
like what, can you help us understand how you made that possible?
Yeah, so I'm the inventor of the technology. I developed the technology, initially created the initial prototype of the technology for my PhD, because my background is in biomedical engineering. So I did the first prototype myself and the second prototype myself. I then brought on these engineers to do the prototype that was more product-like, sought an electrical and mechanical engineer. And we have a data scientist, Yannick, has a PhD in chemical engineering. He's doing the data science around the technology to convert the signals into a diagnostic algorithm. And then we surrounded a team of advisors. We were looking for people with domain expertise in the wound care space and also with consumer health products or consumer products. So our long-term goal was to go down and target consumers. But we basically went to professional organizations, for example, to find Dr. Elizabeth Aiello, and the same thing with Margaret, who's VP of sales at Medline, which is a wound care company also.
Wonderful. Juan, any final questions from you?
Yeah, real quick. Thank you, Sana, and congrats on your progress to date. Just a quick question on traction. You mentioned that you were selected by P&G, Procter & Gamble, to go to market. Could you give us a little bit more background on, I guess, that particular relationship? Are you guys going to market together? Are they distributing your product? Are they licensing it and then putting it under their own brand?
Yeah, so we were, in January of this year, we pitched to some of their top executives because they're looking to broaden out into the elder care market. And to add additional products that are complementary to the products they currently serve. So we were one of 4 companies we pitched. We weren't selected because they said that they wanted to focus on more of the early upstream in terms of elder care. So before people become so limited in their mobility that they are at risk for bed sore. So just at the early stages of aging, but they're still working with us as a mentor. And most likely we'll probably reevaluate that relationship as they switch their focus to more later stage aging products.
Wonderful. Sana, thank you so much for sharing the Rubitection story and the incredible work that you're doing to address the problem of bed sores. Really excited to see where the next couple of years go for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity, and everybody stay safe.
Thank you. With that, we're ready to move to our third presenting company. It's my pleasure to welcome Siddharth from White Fox Scooters.
Yeah, thanks, Alec. So at White Fox Scooters, we are really looking to launch the first dock-to-dock e-scooter company in the US, catering to walkable cities and micro-communities through our partnerships with both the local governments as well as private property owners like hotels, apartment buildings, and more. So as you see on this slide, let me enter full screen here. I'm sure a lot of you guys live in cities with dockless electric scooters, and in theory, when they were launched, they really were supposed to be shown like the picture on the left-hand side. In actuality, they end up being more so like the pictures on the right-hand side, where you see them in piles in the middle of sidewalks and other things like that. When dockless e-scooters were launched over 2 years ago, we very quickly realized that the dockless model may not be ideal for cities like the greater New York City area, like here in our home, and other walkable cities and micro communities. And that's why we decided to go down a path to explore a fully dock-to-dock approach. Before doing that, we actually took a look at the problems with that industry's response. And we found 3 major issues: safety, profitability, and externalities. So in safety, we found a lot of pedestrian safety and traffic hazards, unreliable and inconsistent user experience, as well as hard access to helmets. We found a profitability issue with a lot of lost and stolen scooters, misuse, mistreatment, and vandalization, as well as the use of freelance laborers, which were relatively expensive. And finally, externalities as well, with scooters being left by the water and the wind blowing and scooters falling into the water with lithium-ion batteries disintegrating in the water. Definitely not ideal for an environmentally friendly solution. So after looking at these different problems, we ended up launching 12 months ago our fully dock-to-dock approach, as you see here, in our service area of Jersey City, New Jersey, right outside the Manhattan area. As you see, our docking stations keep all the scooters upright and organized. They can charge the scooters if they have access to power, and are all modular to fit any space provided. So a really nice way to keep these scooters in this mobility solution functioning as good as possible. I'll quickly note, due to COVID, we've actually now wrapped all the handlebars in self-sanitizing, self-cleaning handlebar tape, as well as we're working to now integrate hand sanitizing wipes into each and every docking station, so people can grab a wipe and sanitize their scooters before each and every ride, really making this one of the safest ways to get around without using public transit or even ride share. As you can see, a few screenshots of our app, the menu options where the scooters are, the charge level, pricing, as well as your ride history. You also see some of our new scooters that are coming in. We've already launched over 15 scooters in the past to test, and currently have our first bigger batch of 50 scooters on the way currently that should be delivered in the next 20 to 30 days, which will really supplement and kind of make sure that our presence in our service area is quite well known. In terms of traction, we've had over 1,000 rides taken and over 1,000 users, and now have scaled to over 14 docking locations, and have already signed some top private property developers in our service area, including Greystar and others, hotels, apartments, museums, co-working, co-living spaces, as well as the top hotels and apartments in Manhattan and Brooklyn in preparation for legalization, as well as a very strong pipeline with transit agencies and publicly traded property developers as well. So to wrap up, please help us bring BAR home here in the greater New York City area and to your home as well. Thanks so much. Excited to answer some questions.
Thank you very much, Sid. Really appreciate you sharing some about White Fox scooters. I'd love to throw it over to our judges. Maybe Clem, do you want to kick it off for us?
Sure, thanks. Amazing sense of design and great things that I really appreciate that. Can you clarify where are you at? Like, if I wanted to start riding one of your scooters, like what will it take for me to do that, and what are the next steps? You went over that, but would love to have a crisp perspective of that.
Yeah, sure, Clement. So basically, we launched 12 months ago with our first 10 scooters and first 2 locations. Since then, we've now expanded to 14 locations, and we've basically launched a few samples of other models as we were testing in preparation to really buy our choose a scooter model for our mass production and scaling. We've now chosen that scooter and ordered the first 50 scooters of that that are currently on the way. So essentially in 30 days, we also already have all the locations signed and deployed. So the docking stations are ready and waiting, and all we need to do is fill the scooters, the 50 scooters into them. Obviously right now we still have a small fleet of roughly 15 scooters running. So if you wanted to ride, we actually have rides going on as we speak. So you could ride, right now, today itself, and we're actively looking to grow our dock density. To give you an idea, City Bike actually has 50 docking stations here in Jersey City with our service area. we have now close to 14. So and we also have a strong pipeline with over 30 locations that should be closed fairly soon as well. So we're hoping to get up to city bike dock density pretty soon.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying. So many more questions on your tech, but I'll hold on that.
Yeah, sure.
Katie or Juan, anything on your side?
Sure. Thank you, Siddharth, for the presentation. I guess I'd like to better understand the competitive environment. Obviously, I think we all know about a number of the different scooter companies out there who have raised significant amounts of capital over the last several years, and then also some of the bike companies as well, all of which you seem to be competing against. I guess I'd like to understand how you differentiate from all of those different competitors and how you win.
Yeah, great question. So our two main differentiating factors are, one, obviously we're actually the first and really the only fully dock-to-dock approach. Other companies, some of our competitors that are closest to us, have deployed charging stations in certain areas, and they incentivize riders to bring it back to those charging stations, but they actually still run a dockless model where you can start anywhere and end anywhere. So that fully dock-to-dock approach is really kind of the number one differentiating factor. And the second one is that we can partner with private property as well. So in many cases, we've talked to many local jurisdictions that love our model, and in fact have given us introductions to other property developers saying, look, we'd love to do a pilot with you guys, but just due to the red tape and potential RFP nature of the business, we would love for you to actually launch with, on private property as your model is, and we can very quickly launch, much quicker than the other competition, in those service areas. So just like in Jersey City, we're actually still the only operator. Hoboken, that actually had Lime historically and set one of the world records of the rides per scooter per day in Hoboken. We're actually just signed 4 locations in Hoboken as well. So we're actually the only operator right now who can connect a lot of the Strip, Weehawken, Hoboken, Jersey City, and potentially even Bayonne, since we'll be the only operator partnering with private property. That's just a few of the ways that we're kind of nuanced and unique. But overall, in terms of how we can beat the competition, a lot of the aspects of what I mentioned really factor into profitability as well. You don't have to pay the freelance laborers to charge the scooters. All the scooters are now swappable battery technology as well. So the industry is definitely growing, and kind of our model definitely has its advantages. In addition to advertising potential, multiple revenue streams, we can very easily supplement shuttle services as well. So we can really tap into a lot more revenue streams and have a lower cost basis as well, making us more profitable.
Thank you. And Katie, any final question?
What does success look like for you in 2030?
2030. So I think that, there's a lot of cities like, places here on the East Coast, New York, Charlotte, London, other places around the world, walkable cities and micro communities. In our thesis, we believe that our dock-to-dock approach has a lot of benefits and, could be potentially, really targeting all those different major cities with a very clean and organized approach. So by 2030, we anticipate that we can really make sure that all micro communities and walkable cities, globally have this type of efficient transportation. We've also optimized our approach to, we want to donate a portion of proceeds to plant trees in the areas that we serve. So truly be a true CO2 offset, similar to companies like Patagonia, who, right now, a lot of the scooter companies, they've, in the industry, they've actually been, kind of criticized for, it's an eco-friendly solution, but they drive their gas guzzling, cargo vehicles back and forth, every single time. So a lot of those different things impact the CO2 emissions related to the system. So we really want to, hopefully by, in many years, hopefully sooner than that, we can really target the areas that would work best for this model and make sure that it's truly being a CO2 offset and really helping the environment as well.
Thank you, Sid. Appreciate the presentation and the answers.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sid. Really, really great to learn about White Fox, and certainly hope that next time we get on the East Coast, which, hopefully sooner rather than later, we see some White Fox scooters around the Jersey cities and Manhattan. So thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful. We're ready for our 4th presentation. It's my pleasure to welcome Paul from Iron Yun to the virtual stage.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Coming through loud and clear, Paul. Thanks for joining us from the road.
Yes, thank you. Actually, on my way driving to a customer site in Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm the president for Iron Yuan. We are an artificial intelligence, deep learning, video analytics software company. Since 2018, we have launched our software product in the enterprise space. We're based in Stamford, Connecticut, and over the past 3 years since we developed our software, we have granted quite a few patents in the field. We have over 30 US patents granted in the field of AI, big data, video analytics. In the short couple of years since we launched our AI software, it's used in over 30 countries in mostly critical infrastructure projects. And over the past 2 years, we have been experiencing an explosive growth on our sales. And in 2019, our sales grew by more than 400% over 18. So let me describe one of our customers and their pain. So this is Volkswagen, one of the world's largest car manufacturers. They have a very large manufacturing plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with over 2,000 employees. As the country start to reopen for with the COVID-19 pandemic, the company implemented a policy of measuring every employee's body temperature before they can start work at the plant. So this is including doing face mask detection and occupancy counting and social distancing. So before they implement our AI video analytics software, they have 2,000 employees, and every morning between 7 to 8, as the employee come into the building, they have to manually measure everybody's body temperature and log them. And it takes an average of 3 seconds per employee to manually measure the forehead. And that alone takes over 1.7 hours per day to measure the entire 2,000 employee base. That cost alone is over $10,000 per day just to implement that policy. Post our AI software on using our AI video analytics software, we entirely automated that process. So with a hardware, standard commercial thermal camera, we automatically measure every employee's body temperature as they walk into a building. So the benefit is no more manual measurement. It's highly accurate and no long lines. The system is deployed, costs about $30,000 for Volkswagen, and within 3 days of implementing that, they have earned back their investment. So let me tell you about the other products that the company provide. From anything that has to do with video, we apply object search, intrusion detection, face search, license plate recognition, face recognition, weapon detection for active shooters, to smoke fire detection, and to social health analytics. Late last year, we've been awarded $857,000 for our software from the Department of Defense Combat Terrorism Office for safety and security of our troops. We have over 300 enterprise customers in a short 2 years since our software product launch, from Amazon Web Services that use our software for intrusion detection to protect their data center, to Disney, ESPN, NVIDIA, Volkswagen, Delta Electronics, many smart cities. Our software cut across many different verticals, from corporate campus, smart city, bank, casino. The largest lending bank in the US, Lending Tree, is currently deploying our software. The largest casino in the United States, Fountainwood Casino, deploy our software, and many
try and wrap it up in the next 30 seconds.
Yes, so really exciting. Since our product launch from 2 years ago, last year, we have literally been doubling in sales every 6 months. Last year, we approached $1 million in software sale. Our gross margin is over 90%. And really exciting is we will be profitable, projected to the end of this year, within 6 over the next couple of months since less than 3 years since our product launch. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the pitch. I'd love to throw it over to any of our judges for questions. Maybe Juan, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. Thank you, Paul, and congrats on your progress. I guess I'd like to better understand the technology behind your AI analytics software. Could you give us a little bit better overview of what makes your particular analytics software special and how it's differentiated from some competitive alternatives?
Yeah, so the founding team is 20 of our founders. We all work at one of the largest national labs in the world. And actually, I was the director of that national lab, pioneering the AI software before we formally started Iron Yuan. So the secret sauce is applying object deep learning with behavior plus domain know-how that we incorporate expert knowledge rule-based system in addition to deep learning technology. That's what make our solution much more accurate and much faster than existing solutions on the market today.
Thank you. And any questions from Katie or Clem?
One, thanks for the shout out for Amazon Web Services. We always love hearing about customers and partners in the industry. So thanks for that. I'd like to understand talking about that partnership in the customer base, who are some of the partners who've enabled your success so far? And who are the partners you need to partner with to enable your success in the future?
Yeah, so some of our ecosystem partners include NVIDIA, Intel, HP, Dell. Those are all of our enterprise partners where they load our software onto their computer server, and they sell it into the marketplace. So that's one example of partners. The second is we also partner with camera companies. For example, Panasonic, Sony, and those hardware camera. We are a software provider. With our software, we just make the camera system or the computer system intelligent, that it can understand what is the situation, or we call it situation awareness with video.
Thank you. And Clem, any questions?
Yes. So do you mind clarifying, following up on the one Juan said, like, out of all the solutions that are out there, some of the camera provider providing it, like, why do they bet on a young startup? And congrats, all the logo shows that there is good reason. Do you mind clarifying beyond the pedigree of the team, like what makes the head-to-head for an operation like Toyota being like, Iron Yuan, like I'm giving the critical sensitive security of like health security to you, like what got them so excited to bypass all the larger players?
Yeah, number one is we are an enterprise platform. Our benefit is our software is easy to use. We have customers like Dell. They download our software onto their computer server literally within 5 minutes. They connect the camera and start to do license plate recognition, trip and fall, vehicle detection. The software is just simply the easiest to use on the market today. It's fully integrated with everything from weapon detection to license plate to face recognition to COVID-19 body temperature. There is no product today that is an all-in-one solution. So that easy to use all-in-one is number one. Number two, we simply is more accurate than most of our products competing product out there, especially on the camera, because our software runs on a server that just has much more computing horsepower. So number one, easy to use. Number two is more accurate, and number three is the total cost of ownership is the best available on the market today.
So if I were to rephrase briefly, you're cheaper than anyone else. You have more integration to other markets than other people. And on top of that, you have an accuracy level that was like a run on benchmark is higher than the market.
Yes, that's correct.
And maybe one quick question from the audience. And I think it fed into a lot of this conversation, but who is your biggest competitor and who do you see as kind of the brand you need to beat if you're really going to become the industry leading, computer vision company?
Yes, our competitors are the largest public company in the security safety is Motorola. So they are our main competitor in the field today. Okay, but with inferior product and solution.
Thank you very much, Paul. I really appreciate you taking a quick turn off the road to give us this pitch.
Yes, I'm on New Jersey Turnpike. Thank you all for the opportunity. On the road again, I guess. Back on the road again. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, judges.
With that, we'll move on to our fifth presentation. It's my pleasure to welcome Heather from Wellness to the virtual stage.
Hello, everybody. My video is disabled. I don't know if you can turn that back on for me, but I'll go ahead and get going. So my name is Heather. I'm the CEO and founder of Wellness, and we are a SaaS-enabled marketplace for workplace health. The problem that we're solving is that wellness providers are chronically underemployed, and they are 80% women. So it's a chronic underemployment issue that is impacting mostly women. And they are unfortunately making only $38,000 a year, and over half of them have to work a second job to make ends meet. And due to COVID, many of them have seen their incomes completely disappear as gyms and studios are closed. And sorry, there's a prompt to start my video. It's freezing up the presentation here. So what we're doing here at Wellness is we're making it very easy for wellness providers to sell into enterprises for income that is profitable, recurring, and safe. And the way that we do that is providers list their services on one of our platforms, Wellness TV, where they can create video content, or Wellness Live and Wellness Webinars, where they can list their services, workshops, or speaking abilities for people to purchase. Wellness then sells these services into enterprises, directly into HR, to power wellness programs. Enterprises pay Wellness, and Wellness shares that revenue back to the providers. A little bit more about our product. Wellness TV is like Netflix for health and wellness videos. We have over 200 videos that employees can play on demand anytime, anywhere. We also host live streamings here. And we support our providers to create this content with a video equipment purchase program. Wellness in Person is a catalog where an HR professional will come and view various services or speakers that they can bring into their organization. Everything from yoga classes to nutritionists, ergonomics, to more medical things like flu shots and COVID testing. And any of those providers can also be offered virtually as a webinar. Because we're a marketplace, we have a huge variety of services. We already have over 6,000 providers, so we can do pretty much any kind of wellness service. And we're servicing a huge market. The wellness industry in the US is about $5 billion a year, growing by 7%. That's specifically the workplace wellness market. And today we already are working with tons of enterprise clients. Our clients include PayPal, Walmart, the city of Boston, to name a few. We sell our video programming at a per employee per month subscription model, and our in-person and live is based on consumption. Our average contract is $7,000 a year for SMBs and $70,000 a year for enterprises. We also are an approved vendor with Aetna, Cigna, and United, and we work with a lot of benefits brokers and consultants as channel partners, including Mercer and Willis Towers Watson. The team is myself. I'm this year's Tri-State STEM Entrepreneur of the Year and the MITRE Women in Health Digital Health Award winner. I'm a certified Scrum Master and an MBA. Joe is our head of sales. He's a professor of sales and author of several sales playbooks. Giselle heads customer success, and Jeremy is our engineer. We believe in the future, all enterprise companies will offer health and wellness programs, and that wellness will power them all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. Really, really interesting perspective and take on the employee wellness space. Excited to hear what the judges have to say. Maybe we'll throw it over to Katie, as this is one of your kind of areas in the AWS EdStart world.
Yeah, this is super exciting, and I think it's absolutely vital in this day and age, especially getting people the help that they need when they need it. With 6,000 providers, I think that's phenomenal, but how do you scrub the content? How do you view it for accuracy and relevance and overall content?
So all of our providers apply to become a provider with us. We screen them for appropriate licenses and insurance. They then go through an orientation. And after that, we let the marketplace regulate itself. So we get feedback from our customers, and we use that feedback to determine who we continue to work with. On the video side, we also additionally screen all of those videos before they're approved for editing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Clem, any questions on your side?
Sure, great. I mean, that's historically building like a two-sided marketplace. Like the supply side is easy. Like you go and ask them, like, do you want more money? And they jump in, but you find that. And on top of that, you actually found a proper qualified demand. So this is great. Can you explain why large institutions like the City of Boston or some of the, or PayPal or some of the other clients you decided to jump with you and why over other platforms and stick with you over the past few years?
Yeah, so on the HR side, the challenge is that it's usually the head of benefits, and handling the wellness program is just one of their many responsibilities. In large organizations or complex organizations like a municipality, they may be dealing with dozens of locations and hundreds of individual wellness vendors. And so they go through procurement with everyone. They get a different invoice from everyone. They have a different customer service point of contact for everyone. So we really streamline that. We're a one-stop shop. They have one bill, one customer service point of contact. So the value for them is very clear.
Anything from you, Juan?
Sure. Thank you, Heather. I guess I have a quick question, or two quick questions maybe. On that, I'd like to go back to a little bit to sort of who your competitors are. It sounds like you're probably competing against a variety of different alternatives in the workplace wellness market, both other workplace wellness providers, but then also other solutions like gyms themselves that I would assume some companies offer, some type of support to their employees, maybe in the form of a stipend or something like that. I guess I'd like to better understand how you differentiate between those offerings from companies. And then also just on the model side, the business model side, I'd like to understand how much of your revenues are then turned over to the providers themselves. What does the provider take?
Sure. So you're right. There are over 3,500 corporate wellness companies in America. The market is highly fractured, but that is actually the opportunity. There is no market leader today, and the variety of choices is very confusing for the HR professional. So that is the opportunity. Our main differentiation is we have the largest availability of services because we are a marketplace. And secondly is that we're omni-channel. So most wellness companies will specialize in a particular type of wellness program and a specific channel to deliver that, maybe video, maybe live. We're omni-channel. In terms of the revenue share, so for in-person and webinars, providers get approximately 50%, and for Wellness TV, they get 20%, and that is paid out based on the view time of their videos.
And one quick question from the audience. How do you enable different enterprise buyers to kind of customize the catalog of resources that they make available to their workforce? Is that something that's kind of highly customizable and personalized, or is it more standard?
So every client gets assigned a wellness concierge who is a real life human being, and that person will help them guide them towards the type of programming that they want to bring into their organization. So HR is always choosing the programming. The employees are the end users. That's when it's in person or a webinar. For video, it's just like Netflix. So the employees can watch whatever they want, whenever they want. They can choose between various categories. Our most popular category today, as you might imagine, is coping with stress and anxiety.
Certainly makes sense. Certainly makes sense. Well, Heather, thank you so much for taking the time with us tonight. It sounds like wellness is on a really exciting track, and there isn't probably a product that's more in need right now as every person, family, workforce, tries to kind of find a new balance in today's crazy time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're ready for our next presentation. I'd like to invite Khaled from Legacy to the virtual stage.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Khaled Kateli, and I am the founder of Legacy. We are the first online fertility clinic focused on male infertility. Fertility clinics traditionally are actually failing couples in a world where male infertility is on the rise and demographic trends are accelerating. We know that worldwide fertility rates are dropping, lifestyles are changing, and global sperm quality has gone down. In fact, that's looking at about 50% decline in the last 40 years for men, in a world where demographic trends mean that people are older, they're meeting later, they're trying to have children later, and ultimately this means significant challenges facing couples trying to have kids. But fertility clinics treat fertility as a quote unquote women's issue, even though that's wrong, because IVF and egg freezing are so much more lucrative to them versus male infertility. And what this means is a world where there's zero innovation on the male fertility side, at least not in decades, and men avoid clinics that are deliberately creating an uncomfortable, awkward experience because they just don't make enough money from them. Enter Legacy. This is the first at-home mail-in solution for men who want to test and preserve their fertility. No prescription needed. You go online, you order it, you get the kit the next morning. Our couriers take care of the rest. We do this at less than 50% of the cost of a clinic because we have economies of scale. We have a data set that means we offer personalized and data-driven recommendations for each of our customers. And best of all, it's done completely from home, no awkward visits to clinics or meetings with doctors unless you want to. You'll get an overall assessment of your fertility metrics, an assessment of where you stand relative to other men who are like you, as well as personalized lifestyle recommendations that you can discuss with one of our doctors or nurses on staff as part of a complimentary telehealth consultation. The thing is, we've gone after a few markets that are in and of themselves already growing. Couples trying to conceive, 5 million each year and growing due to increasing infertility rates. 2 million plus employees with fertility benefits coverage in a world where fertility benefits are the hot benefit to offer 2020 and beyond. 1.2 military active duty men in a world where the military is thinking about the risks of being wounded or killed in action. And 1.5 million men each year with medical conditions in a world where infertility is increasingly covered by insurance. The company itself has actually grown quite quickly, almost 30% month-on-month growth over the past year and a half. Our customers love us with an NPS score of 52. We've built out an extremely attractive LTV to CAC ratio because men who preserve their fertility do so for decades, in part because we reduced our CAC by 300%, leading to a business model with predictable, recurring revenue and significant economies of scale, most recently with a 50% reduction in our cost of goods sold. So when I started the company, I didn't believe that I would be surrounded by such a phenomenal team. But we have folks like Sarah, who worked at Extend Fertility, Dr. Rami Abou-Ghaida from Harvard, who's a trained urologist, folks who've worked at NASA, who've scaled Y Combinator startups, who've worked internationally from Harvard Business School. And we also have the world's leading male fertility experts who are so excited that there's actually some innovation in the space for the first time. But don't just take it from me. We've been incubated at the Harvard Innovation Labs. We've been at GSV Labs for the last year in remote. We went through Y Combinator. We have investors like Main Capital Ventures, and we've signed significant partnerships like Veterans Advantage for the military, Boston IVF for fertility clinics, and Kindbody, the fastest growing fertility benefits provider. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, some background on Legacy, and for me an update from the last year's East Coast Finals. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back here. I'd love to throw it over to our judges. Maybe I'll start with Juan, since I know he's got some real background in the digital health space.
Khaled, thank you very much for your presentation and congrats on your progress to date. So I guess I'm curious about, you mentioned that there was sort of a recurring nature, revenue nature for the product. My understanding from your presentation was that there was a personalized assessment of fertility. What is the recurring relationship between the company and the customer beyond that initial assessment?
Sure. I'll very quickly walk you through the customer journey. So which starts exactly as you described with ordering the kit, you get a full semen analysis with that. We then introduce them onto a life cycle where we put them on a sperm health improvement plan, which is something that we pioneered, and then we encourage them to cryopreserve their sperm. What that means is once someone has actually chosen to freeze their sperm, we know from industry metrics as well as our own attrition, which is effectively 0%, that men freeze their sperm for decades, not for years. This also drives an extremely high LTV.
Any other questions, Katie or Clem?
What is your revenue model?
Yeah, so we charge $195 for the kit. This includes the analysis, includes the shipping. We actually make money on that. And then after that, we encourage folks to do cryopreservation. Those rates start at $100 a year. And cryopreservation actually has SaaS level margins. So that's actually where the bulk of our profitability comes from.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
Awesome. Yeah, great to hear and learn more about Legacy. So can you walk us through, like you've learned a lot since the launch of the company to now, adding other services, adding like evolving the offer. Can you walk us through things that weren't that are obvious now that you present them, but things that you learned through the past, and how you came to these conclusions?
Things that are so painfully obvious. So I've had a few very interesting hypotheses that were completely disproved. The first is I believe that men in no way, shape, or form would want to talk to someone on the phone, but they'd want everything to be completely anonymized and done online. I was completely wrong. And so we actually started offering a complimentary telehealth consult to every single one of our customers for free, because we found this actually drives the purchase of so many other customers that it has an extremely high ROI. And people actually really crave the personal touch because fertility is just such a personal journey. The other thing we learned is that we thought a lot about sperm freezing as the very beginning of the business model. We realized that actually where there's a lot of urgency is for couples that are trying to conceive right now. These are folks where they are desperate for a solution, where we are a medicine, not a vitamin. And so what we've evolved is instead of offering sperm freezing up front, we actually focus more on the analysis, and we use that to kind of drive a wedge towards the freezing.
Wonderful. I think maybe my final question would be, where does Legacy go over the next 5 years, and what is the future of the company?
One of my favorite questions. So first and foremost, very few folks are doing what we're doing internationally. And so we're actually looking at aggressively expanding internationally, something that our customers and partners have requested. So we work with fertility benefits providers that deal with a lot of multinationals. So they want male fertility solutions that are international as they are. And so we're looking right now at expansion to Canada, expansion to Europe through London and Geneva, as well as expansion to the Middle East through Dubai. So the goal is to be the international male fertility solution worldwide.
Thank you so much. Really exciting to learn about Legacy, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about you in the years to come. For our next pitch, it's my pleasure to welcome Haley from Mito Materials.
Hello. How are you guys? Hi, I'm Haley from Mito Material Solutions. Oh, yes, I will start my video. So a century ago, the most sturdy industrial materials were wood and metal. And today, the new standard is composite materials. A market currently worth $137 billion, the composites industry includes fiberglass, carbon fiber, and Kevlar composites, and thermoplastics. But this industry is growing because of the need to lightweight and push the limits without sacrificing performance. Composites have their limitations, like epoxy or glue that holds them all together. The glue can be incredibly brittle, affecting performance and overall part life integrity, and it prevents composite materials from being the go-to choice in industries. Enter Mito. At Mito, we produce patented hybrid graphene modifiers using a proprietary functionalization technique that enhances these composites. Our additive's unique chemistry makes it extremely versatile, allowing part manufacturers to complete tougher, lighter, and more durable products. Think of it like the baking powder in a recipe. Compared to other leading technologies, Mito is able to deliver higher performance at lower loading levels, which makes it more accessible to different industries. For example, 2 pounds of our material will make 3,000 carbon fiber bike frames. Our products integrate seamlessly into existing manufacturing processes, and we use that niche to target our customers. For example, our first piloting customer is a semi-truck trailer manufacturer who's looking to transition away from steel composite panels to all entire fiber reinforced composite panels. This will allow them to shed 50% in weight and reduce the emissions by 40%, keeping the same load capacity. Other additives didn't fit the bill, but when they tried Mito, they advanced the project extremely fast because they were so excited about the opportunity to increase their mechanical performance by 135% using Mito's additive. The team that we have assembled around Mito is a balanced mix of technical and business talent with experience in chemicals, manufacturing, and business experience and composite integration with industry experts who regularly advise us. We work with our manufacturing partners to distribute our project wholesale, which actually pushes us through the supply chain and allowing us to integrate at large volumes to our customers. Mito has 2 issued patents and over $2 million in grant funding. We have 13 companies beta testing our product right now, which can convert to $135 million in revenue. We closed a Series Seed round yesterday of $1 million and have had amazing and fantastic support through organizations like the Heritage Group, Techstars, the National Science Foundation, and our funding partners that just helped us close the Series Seed. When we started Mito, we believed that advanced materials shouldn't be just for advanced industries. And that's why we're excited to empower industries like transportation, packaging, automotive, and other industries that are really looking to innovate but have not had the opportunity. So we're looking to empower the next generation of materials. Thank you so much. Excited for questions.
Haley, thank you so much for sharing about the company. And first and foremost, congratulations on closing the seed round yesterday. You know, it is always an honor to get to spend, you know, that day, that week after a founder closes their seed round with them and get to kind of experience that. So congratulations and great progress. I'd love to throw it over to our judges for any questions. Maybe Juan, do you want to kick it off?
Thank you, Haley, and also congrats on closing the round. I'm sure that's a big weight off your shoulders. I guess I'd like to better understand, you know, how you're with customers. It sounds like you have a wholesale model. Are you selling directly to your customers, or are you going through a distribution model, a partner distribution model of some sort?
Yeah,
and if so, you know,
absolutely. So we're establishing some partnerships in the distribution space for the composite advanced materials. Industry is very wide. What we've found in the business model is actually ideal for our startup is to work directly with the original equipment manufacturers, the people making the trailers. We went to their facility, integrated our stuff on the spot, proving the integration was extremely easy. And we're working with them to create the panels and go through the pilot project. Moving forward, we're actually going to be working with their supplier of the resin. And so they've introduced us to their supplier and we're working that relationship now. And then as that kind of fans out, once we're in that resin system, there's other applications that will grow at volume. And so that's the way that our model is being built.
Thank you.
Any questions from Katie or Clem?
Thank you again for the presentation and super excited to hear about the funding. What are the limitations of the product right now and how are you working to overcome those?
Yeah, so one of the biggest limitations I think with materials is scaling and time to market. So you have to test a lot of different material combinations with your product and then make sure that it scales. And so what Mito did early on was we focused on organizing grant funding to establish our product development and research goals. With that funding from the National Science Foundation, we've been able to scale our product significantly at a commercial and contract level manufacturer. So now it's just about fortifying the supply chain, making sure the pricing is going to be right for the industry. And then we're also working with our R&D partners and our commercial partners to characterize different materials and allowing our customers to feed us some of that data and information. And that's one of the ways that we're shortening our time to market. Like we're just addressing the customer problem with the customer instead of touting out a bunch of data and saying, here's all the things that we can do with a material. It's more of, we know that we can help you lightweight a trailer. Let's work on lightweighting a trailer. And that's really been helpful. And so, yeah, we're just in that process now of scaling and growing that customer pipeline model and scaling the actual material, which is an exciting phase of the company.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Awesome, Holly, to hear from you since you went through the Heritage Group and Techstars. It has been awesome. And building a nano additive like that is no small feat, so congrats. Do you mind help us understand? So you decided to zoom in on specific application right now, trailers, and working directly with the resin providers. Can you walk us through, like, over the next few years, what are the areas where you want to expand the use of your nano additive, and what will that mean for your company? Is that licensing the technology? Is that building like the same resin that you will actually produce at large scale? Like, help us understand what that means to grow a material science company like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think there's a right way to do it, but here's how we're attacking it. So I've talked to several companies that make a graphene-based product, and then they turn into a graphene-based resin, and then they make a boat. And then, are you making a boat? Are you making a resin? Or are you making graphene? So we kind of took that equation out and said, look, Mito wants to be the additive producer, the solution, the additive solutions provider. So we are making the baking powder. We're functionalizing it with different chemical arms. I won't get too fancy, but there's acrylate, methyl acrylate, and epoxide functionality that our material is offering. So as we scale, we took a look at our market scope and we said, there's aerospace. That's a 30-year term, not really startup friendly, but huge applications and margins. There's automotive, which if you're targeting specific segments, not super startup friendly. So let's find high pain points where we can really deliver some material character value, like a semi-truck trailer, or like an RV, or like some sporting goods, and let's work with those manufacturers, solve those problems, and find ways to easily attack the verticals that are using the same subset of materials. So we're not attacking specific use cases. We're looking at who uses fiberglass and polyester resin, who uses carbon fiber and epoxy prepreg systems, and who has a problem with lightweighting, overall part fatigue and durability, compression, tension, mechanical property enhancements. Mito is your additive solutions provider.
I think you may have gotten a lot of the answers to this question in that last one, but one of the questions from the audience is, can you talk a little bit more about how you frame the unit economics of Mito to potential partners, and you know, what does that value proposition mean in dollars to them at the end of the day?
Yeah, that is a question I get a lot. I got that this morning. So, you know, we're scaling an additive, and when you scale, product price goes down. The value doesn't go away. So like compared to our other leading products or competing products like nanosilica, carbon nanotubes, you have to load them at 5 to 15 to 30% by weight of the composite. Mito's at a 0.1% concentration. So already, like, you're seeing you're decreasing the weight just by adding our additive in exchange for nanosilica or nanotubes. So there's a lot of things to be said for the value proposition and value-based pricing, and we're trying to figure out and navigate that system. And that's a part of this funding round, right? And I think the use cases make it vary, but ultimately with scale, the price goes down and you can get SaaS-like margins on a material product like this, which I don't think that most investors think about it that way, but it's possible.
No, we're excited to show you prove that rule and bring in the next generation of SaaS style material science companies. But thank you so much.
It's run its course. I think graphene is the next thing, so we're excited to be on the cutting edge.
Thank you for sharing the vision with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
With that, we're ready for our second to last presentation. It's my pleasure to welcome Spring from Vincere Biosciences to the virtual stage.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me on. So we at Vincere, we work on Parkinson's disease. You may be a little bit familiar with the disease because of some of the celebrities that have had the disease previously. So just very briefly, 10 million patients worldwide, 1 million in the US. So it's quite a large unmet need. There is no disease modifying therapeutic right now, and over $2 billion a year is spent on just symptomatic type therapeutics. And this market, as the population ages, is growing because Parkinson's disease is an age-related disease. And the compounds that we have that we're working on are mitochondrial compounds. So what they do is they clear damaged mitochondria. You may know about mitochondria as the powerhouses of the cell, but when they get damaged, they can actually cause quite a bit of damage to the cells and cause neurodegeneration. So we know that the mitochondria are important for many diseases. So on top of Parkinson's disease, we know that there are additional disease indications that this could be important for. And the most exciting one that we constantly think about is just health span and lifespan. So if you look in fruit flies, for example, you can see that overexpression or increasing the levels of one of the proteins that we're targeting can enhance median lifespan, maximal lifespan, and even health span as measured by things like fertility, which was talked about earlier today. So we're quite excited about tackling these. There is no similar therapeutic in the clinic or even in clinical trials right now. There's a little bit of preclinical competition, but everybody's very early, and we have some competitive advantages on that front. We also have some unique innovative technology. We have software that we have developed in-house that falls into multiple different categories, including a patented simulation platform. This is a physics-based simulation platform that we have used that aids in a lot of different things, including helping us decide which patients we want to go after and what potential disease indications. Besides myself and my co-founder, who's a computer scientist, I'm a neuroscientist. We have a stellar team that we've been able to recruit. Every one of these scientists bringing over between 20 and 30 years each of experience in developing therapeutics and taking them really from the idea stage to the clinic. And so we've been very fortunate to have all of these guys. We also have had funding from expert agencies, so National Institute of Health, Michael J. Fox Foundation. We've had $1.25 million of financing on top of the private funding that we've had. And we have very clear inflection points that drive value increase and reduce the risk as we go forward. As you might imagine, this is not an easy thing to accomplish. So we have, broken things down into individual milestones that we can accomplish. And the way that we commercialize this is at the point where we have to perform the clinical trials, we will hand this off to a pharma company who is very well suited for doing that. And we've already been in contact. Actually, we started the conversations with various pharma companies before we even formed the company. So we have about 15 companies that are very seriously interested in taking it once it's ready to go to the clinic, which will be in about 2 to 3 years. So just to show you a little bit of data, we started with simulation, as I mentioned, in our software platform, but now we have real world compounds. They work very well in the test tube. They're very potent compounds. They're very selective for the thing that we're going after. They can enhance this clearance of damaged mitochondria in the cell, and they don't cause any damage. So we want to make sure these are safe. They don't cause any damage to the cells or to the mitochondria, healthy mitochondria that are inside your cells. We've also identified potential roadblocks and have action plans to overcome these, and these fall into 3 different categories of scientific execution and financial risks. And just to bring you back to the beginning, we have these first-in-class molecules that we're very excited about for Parkinson's disease and other age-related diseases, and we have quite a bit of competitive advantage and very clear resources and plans to get us to the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Spring. Really excited to hear about your work tackling Parkinson's. Would love to throw it over to our judges. I've been being unfair to Juan with the digital health startups, but I'm going to try one more time and throw life sciences his way. Any questions to kick us off, Juan?
Spring, thank you for the pitch and congrats on your progress to date. I guess with all life science startups, I always like to better understand sort of the process of time to market, and you sort of laid out what your drug development process looked like, and you mentioned that you thought you'd be ready for clinic in the next 2 to 3 years, which I appreciate. I guess I'd like to better understand the conversations that you're having currently with some of the potential pharmaceutical partners. I guess at what point during your development progress do you decide, or do they decide to make an offer to license this technology for this particular the drug that you're developing currently? When do you think that actually happens in that process prior to you going to trial?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And there are 2 really key inflection points. One is what we call a development candidate, which is basically we know that compounds work, but there needs to be some IND enabling studies done. So that's basically the package for the FDA. to let you take it to human. So you can partner at that point, which is when you have the development candidate, or you can partner after you have the package and you've already filed with the FDA. So those are kind of the two sweet spots. But one of the nice things about talking to the pharma companies as we go is we can create a package that they like, so we know exactly what they're looking for. So it's kind of not a surprise. And what we're finding is that they're starting to have preference for acquiring these types of assets early and earlier because they're missing out on some of the things if they wait too long. From our perspective, the later we wait, the better the ROI is. So it is kind of a sweet spot of kind of figuring out what's best for both sides.
Thank you. Any questions, Katie or Clem?
Yes, congratulations on that. And you alluded, so you casually mentioned on your last slide, we have one asset and we have multiple other assets like on the pipeline. So like being a platform technology, do you mind expliciting for us how you move from initial, like the first intuition to become these platforms that indeed is developing side assets that I hope you keep as long as possible until we have a higher ROI and push them through the pipeline. But can you help us understand as a small team, how you're doing that and what is informing all these other asset that you're creating?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because it is a core piece of what we do. So what we're trying to do is basically utilizing our computational technology to get us to a point where we feel really comfortable and confident in pursuing some target, And the way that we're doing it is in a staggered fashion. So the one that I mentioned is the furthest along set of compounds that we're going after, and we have other targets in a staggered fashion behind it. And the way that we do it is we try to get some economy of scale by going after kind of things that work in the same area, so we can use the same expertise and even the same set of biological tools and assays and experiments to answer some of the same questions. So actually two of the major targets that we're going after now, one funded by Fox Foundation, one funded by NIH, they're very different, but we can actually use the same set of tools to measure whether we're able to get the compounds to work or not. So that's how we kind of try to do it being a small team, because if we were to not have a focus area, we really wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't be able to compete with the big guys that way.
Thank you. And any questions, Katie?
I do. Following on to what you said before Clem's question, talking about ROI, what does success look like for you? Obviously, it's the impact on quality of lives, but from a business point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a business point of view, it's getting these assets to the clinic, which is the two things, the commercialization as far as, the monetization and the improvement on quality of life are very much tied together. You can't really have one without the other. So success is very much, getting these compounds to the clinic where they can be tested on patients, and then hopefully through FDA approval where, they can actually be prescribed on a regular basis. And that's where our monetization comes in as well. So unlike a lot of, I think, the other types of businesses where you have ongoing revenues, we have grant funding and funding like that keep us going and able to do our work. But really our primary monetization is at the end when we have it actually to the clinic, or partnership, I should say.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Really cannot thank you enough for sharing the work that you're doing, and incredibly hopeful that you're able to develop something that makes an impact to the millions of people, suffering from this condition. It's incredibly exciting and inspiring work to watch.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Spring. With that, we'll move to our final presentation. Certainly not least, but really excited to welcome Jay from Memory Well as our final presenter.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
You are coming through loud and clear.
Great. And everyone can see the screen?
Yes, if you want to full screen it, that might help.
I'm going to do that right now. There we go. All right, hi everyone. My name is Jay Newton-Small, and I'm CEO and founder of Memory Well. And Memory Well is a digital platform for life storytelling. And Memory Well really grew out of my experience caregiving for my father, who had Alzheimer's. And a few years ago, I moved him into a community. And when I did, they asked me to fill out this enormous 20-page questionnaire about his life. And I was sitting there struggling to write down the answers to these questions, thinking, I was a professional writer with Time magazine, and I challenge anybody to answer some of those questions well, like describe your parents' 50+ year marriage in 4 lines. And B, who was ever going to read your 20 pages of handwritten data points for the nearly 100 residents in that particular community and remember everything, particularly when most of those caregivers turn over at an average rate of more than 75% annually. Nobody, right? And so instead, I wrote down his story, and it really transformed his care. 2 of his caregivers were Ethiopian, and they'd had no idea that my dad had lived in Ethiopia for more than 4 years early on in his career with the United Nations, and they became his champions. They would sit for hours and ask him what it was like to work with Emperor Haile Selassie. And Dad loved it because he remembered Africa from his early 20s at that point really well, even if he didn't remember last week or last month or last year. So Memory Well grew out of that experience, and we now have a digital platform that we've created, and we work with more than 700 freelance writers across the country, and we work B2B with assisted living, skilled nursing, palliative care, hospice. We're starting our first pilots with hospital systems and long-term care to really replace large swaths of those biographical questionnaires that nobody loves to really fill out and even fewer people read, with brief, professionally told stories that families love and they can add to on our platform. Their loved ones' favorite photos, music, movies, so whomever's sitting with them, whether it's a paid caregiver or a grandchild, they have a whole toolbox of tools to engage that person. The stories are really powerful, and they really do transform care. 67% of paid caregivers say they feel better about the loved one's care. 67% of paid caregivers feel better about the care they're providing with the stories. 94% of families say they really love the interview process, and 81% of families say they feel better about their loved one's care knowing that caregivers have these stories. And the really key aspect of what we do is that we use writers for this. Do-it-yourself products can't really collect data the way that we do. Writers, when they input the stories and file it into our systems, they actually put in keywords in each different section. And so we create mineable databases. We approach about 72% of what's traditionally considered social determinants of health. And this is a very attractive data set for a lot of our partners and providers, and a really great secondary market for us. This market is really large, not just for social determinants of health, but also for our stories, as we're at the intersection of value-based care and the leap to digital health. So really bringing empathy back into the system and putting the person into the center of care. We're the perfect people to do this. We're a group of journalists and technicians, plus of course our 700 freelance writers. We also have great advisors in the digital space, the healthcare space, and the media space, as well as great investors. We've done an angel round and raised 1.2 million from blue chip investors in this space. And particularly now in this time of COVID, we feel this is an amazing opportunity when families can't visit their loved ones, whether they're in hospitals or whether they're in, long-term care, assisted living. We started well before this, but we realized that right now is really a moment where we can help put the heart back into the tin man of care. So we are Memory Well, and we're changing aging one story at a time. I welcome your questions.
Jay, thank you so much. I mean, just love what you're doing, like absolutely amazing to watch, and would love to hear what the judges, any questions that they have. Maybe Katie, do you want to kick us off?
Jay, thank you so much for sharing your personal story with us. And then I feel like almost inviting us around your table and hearing this, it's impactful. As someone who's had a loved one in this situation, I wish I had had this solution. It would have been remarkable to have, but also just to memorialize it. Have you thought about that as a revenue stream for families going through this, as a way to memorialize and capture those stories long term?
Absolutely. So we actually offer the 2 things. One is an upsell of books that you can print out from the timelines and the stories. And then secondly, when someone passes, we'll offer to transform the story into an obituary and really package up the whole thing for families to keep as something to remember them always by.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Clem?
Yeah, thanks. Congrats, Jay, on all the progress and all the evolution from like the first idea to now. So can you walk us through a little bit of the things that you've learned through your journey, now having this massive community of writers, having these very large providers and that of care that for whom like you became a central piece of the relationship they have with their patients. So can you walk us through things that you've learned that are now obvious as you explain them, but that are very different as you started working with them?
Sure. I think as a journalist originally, I was really leery about the idea of data, and Facebook arguably destroyed our profession. And so I was super nervous about people using our data for the stories that we created. And it took a lot of conversations, particularly with Kaiser in Northern California, to make me comfortable. And we're meant to start a pilot with them. I was supposed to have already started, but COVID. But we're now going to start the first quarter of next year a program called Thrive Local, which takes our data and what health data that their health data, and then data from the ground, so from churches and senior centers, and really makes recommendations. So if you live like 3 bus rides away from your nearest dialysis center, it might recommend another dialysis center that's 2 miles farther away but offers free Uber rides. And especially in the era of Facebook, Kaiser has struggled to collect those social determinants of health through, surveys, through telemarketer calls, and they view us as a really nice win-win, where not only can they get that data, but they also can put our stories into the EHRs. We've been working with Z codes to insert our stories into EHRs and really improve care across the continuum. So ER doctors, radiologists, primary care physicians, everyone interacting with these people can know them on a personal level and really provide personalized care. So that's been a really big lesson for me.
Thank you. Any final questions, Juan?
Sure. Thank you, Jay, and thank you for sharing your story. Very, very heartwarming opportunity here. I guess I'd like to better understand 2 things. One, your traction to date. It sounds like you're starting some pilots with some hospitals and long-term care providers. But have there been either individuals and/or hospitals or long-term care providers thus far who have already used the platform? And then how are you pricing the product for those customers?
Sure. So we currently price on a per story basis, although we're trying to move more over to a subscription model, and we're working towards that. I would say we're still in the piloting phase. We're exiting the piloting phase by the end of this year, and so we're starting a raise of 2 to 3 million. We're actually looking for an anchor investor right now for that, so we can start to scale. We have letters of intent from our current customers to scale up to 50,000 stories next year. So we're really beginning to permeate into healthcare systems starting end of this year or first quarter of next year, which we're really excited about. Did that answer everything for you?
And then one final question from the audience from Suba in the chat. Where do you see the applicability of MemoryWell outside of this space, if any, and where do you want this opportunity to evolve over the next couple of years?
I think there's a massive opportunity even outside of healthcare, although my mission obviously with my father is very personally related to healthcare. And really, as I said, putting the heart into the tin man of care. I think that, anywhere where you have questionnaires that nobody wants to fill out, you can really insert a story there to a powerful effect. And so whether it's something like a dating service or your LinkedIn profile, or even profiles of your kids as they go from grade to grade and helping teachers get to know whole class of kids a lot quicker and improving that class. I think there's a lot of applications for narrative out there that could be incredibly powerful.
No, very, very exciting to see you turn dry forms into, narrative stories that get people engaged and delighted. So thank you so much for, sharing this with us, and it's really exciting to learn about MemoryWell.
Thanks so much.
With that, we have all of our presenters, on the stage and through. I want to give a special shout out and round of applause to everybody who participated. 9 awesome pitches from, incredible founders. And I don't at all envy our judges making final determinations here. We're going to take 2 to 3 minutes to, pause, tally up all the scores, and then we are going to be back before you know it to announce the 3 companies that have won tonight's event and will be moving forward to the U.S. National Finals next week. So do us a favor and just hold on for a couple minutes. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for waiting for those couple minutes as we tallied up the scores. Another huge shout out to our judges for their time tonight and for what I know was a very, very difficult process of scoring these companies because it really were a great group from end to end. And, everyone building exciting businesses, making big impact. And, frankly, it's the reason why we're all out here and why we love participating in these things so much is seeing this community of entrepreneurs really changing things and really moving the world. So I'm excited to announce who our winning companies are tonight. As a reminder, this was our semifinals round 2 of the East Coast. The top 3 companies from tonight's event will be moving on next week to compete in the national finals, where they'll be competing for $40,000 in cash from GSV Labs, as well as then potential access to up to $1 million in cash prizes for the global finals. So just a great group of companies that we're going to see next week on September 9th for the national finals. And another shout out to everyone who makes this possible tonight, the MISC Foundation, Global Entrepreneurship Network, T-Golf, as well as GSV Labs national partners, Leighton and Brex. And with that, with no further ado, I'm incredibly excited to announce that our 3 advancing companies today are Legacy, Rubitection, and Mito Materials. All 3 of these companies will be advancing from the East Coast semifinals to the national finals next week. And we'll get to see this incredible group of companies, Khalid from Legacy, Santa from Rubitection, and Haley from Mito Materials competing in our national finals next week. So a huge shout out to our 3 companies that are advancing, an equally massive shout out to everyone else who presented, because really there were no easy winners in tonight's competition. And with that, I want to thank you all for spending time with us tonight. We've got upcoming events. Our West Coast semifinals is this Thursday, September 3rd. Our U.S. National Finals on the idea stage is September 8th. The early and growth stage, which is what you've been watching today, is on September 9th. And then if you want to go north of the border, we'll be hosting the Canadian National Finals towards the end of next week. So really excited to have you all come back. Don't forget to add these to your watch list on the EWC platform. And we'll see you on Thursday for the West Coast semifinals. Thanks again.